Isn't it time you got to know your technology leaders? You're listening to Off the Record with GTRA, and I'm your host, Kelly Oakham. So grab your coffee or cocktail and join us for our casual yet intimate and thought-provoking expose on our top council members, ambassadors, technology innovators, and thought leaders.
Thank you for tuning in to today's Off the Record with GTRA. I'm very excited to introduce today's guest, Vidhya Ranganathan, the Senior Vice President of Engineering with Accellion. Thank you for joining us, Vidhya.
Thank you. I'm really excited to be here.
Well, I'd like to start off by getting to know a bit more about how you grew up, your education, personal background, as well as how you started your engineering career.
I grew up in India, and that's where started my career as well. And growing up in India in the 70s and 80s, computers were a new thing then. And I was about 9 years old when my parents introduced me to computers and inspired me to become they called it a computer engineer, basically a software engineer. And that's where it started. That's where the journey started. And here I am. I started my early years of my career. I wrote a lot of code in C, C++, Java, basically all kinds of languages, and been in the software industry for over 25 years. So my first couple of decades were in the business intelligence and analytics space. And over the last 25 years, most of what I've done is built very large-scale distributed systems to solve enterprise problems.
Oh, wow. Well, your impressive career journey, what do you think are some of your more memorable career milestones, your most inspiring challenges, and really how did you get involved in this industry?
Great question. I started my career as a software engineer and have always been solving problems for the enterprise. And my early foray into business intelligence and analytics have just kept me excited throughout. And as the scale of the problems got larger and larger, my inspiration and my wanting to do something more in that field also grew. And I still get very motivated by being able to solve large-scale problems that solve a key productivity need for the enterprise, whether it's in business intelligence, content management, file sharing. It's all different facets of the same thing. Solving large-scale enterprise problems has been the thing that really motivates me and has been motivating me throughout in my career. And I don't think it's going to die anytime soon.
Yeah, I agree. What do you think drives your passion specifically for security?
All right. So nowadays, it's impossible to open a newspaper or Flipboard or any of these news channels and not hear about at least one breach. If you hear only one breach a day, that would be a super good day. And what that shows is how vulnerable we are to everything that's been happening in the world with respect to loss of personal information. Whenever, like this morning, I had to call my car service, and they asked, I left them a message yesterday, and they called me back this morning, and I was really worried about giving my name and address and phone number. And when they said credit card, I said, no, I'm not going to give you my credit card because I get really worried about sharing this information because I worry about how safe it's going to be and what that's going to do if there was ever a loss of this personally identifiable information. It's just a nightmare. And that's where my passion for security really started, which is like all the breaches. And the last couple of years have been nothing but breaches. A few years back, if somebody had told me that something like Heartbleed would happen, I would have laughed at them and said that they were out of their mind. But now, Heartbleed happened, and worse things happened. So it really drives me to ensure that people are able to keep their personal information safe and personally identifiable information, regardless of whose it is kept transmitted, stored in a safe and secure manner, and that's that drives me both personally and as part of Accellion and Kiteworks to make sure that the enterprise is a safe and secure one, not just for me, but for my kids, the generations to come, and for the world at large.
Mm-hmm. Wonderful. Well, and what would you say are some of your more memorable accomplishments? Accellion and Kiteworks seem to be, some really important priorities for you. What would you say has really driven that?
So I talked a lot about keeping personal information and information in general, enterprise information, safe and secure, so that you're not panicking when there's a breach and just always in a reactive mode. So that's the main reason we launched Accellion's Kiteworks, so that our customers and prospects, and interestingly, many of them are in the regulated industries where the loss of personally identifiable information can mean a huge loss. And launching that product and seeing how it's been able to solve the customer problems has been an extremely interesting journey, and one that proves that personal information and very sensitive enterprise information can be kept secure and transmitted secure and stored securely as well.
Mm-hmm. Well, and what are some of your priorities at Accellion, and what exactly is Kiteworks?
Thanks for asking that question. Great question again. The Kiteworks is a product that lets you securely transfer your content and collaborate on it. So you could keep your content wherever it is, wherever it suits your enterprise to keep your content. And if you take a typical enterprise, content is stored in many, many, many different places. It could be SharePoint, OpenText, Documentum, plain old file shares, or the home drives that your IT has set up for you. And when you have content, the immediate thing is you want to be able to send that content and also share and collaborate on that content. And that's the main idea behind Kiteworks, and being able to do all of that I mentioned in a secure manner. And we always say that security is our middle name or our DNA, in the sense that we take security extremely seriously. And the product from the get-go was built with security as the main focus, and our goal is to make sure that Kiteworks is able to reach much more of the enterprise and solve more of these problems in keeping content secure, and also letting people be more productive. So we know that in today's enterprise, if let's say you block Dropbox or any of the shadow IT, and people have to get their job done, they'll somehow find a way to use it to get their job done. They'll go to the Starbucks next door or go home. So being able to help employees be productive, but at the same time letting them share, transfer, and store content, but still adhering to IT security principles and rules is the main focus, and we hope to be able to increase the footprint of Kiteworks more and more in the enterprise.
Excellent. Well, and what would you say sets Kiteworks apart from other solutions that are available? Why is it unique and the best secure collaboration solution?
All right. One, the primary thing is the most secure way to still store information is to keep it in a private cloud, so that it's your information. It's not commingled with somebody else's information in the public cloud. And when I say information, I mean both data as well as metadata. So a lot of the vendors in this space have data or storage in a private cloud location, but metadata is really kept in the public cloud. And if you take a lot of the breaches that happened in the recent past, they've been more to do with metadata than the actual data itself. So the keeping both data and metadata in a private cloud in 100% private cloud is one of the unique differentiators, and letting the enterprise keep its information wherever the business needs demand, whether it's in SharePoint or SharePoint and OpenText or SharePoint and OpenText and OneDrive. It doesn't matter to Accellion or Kiteworks. We are more about securing the content and not about where it's stored or the device that you use.
Mm-hmm. Well said. Well, and what would you say are some of the biggest security threats that the government is facing?
I think the breaches. So recently there was this news that every one of us have read that so much of our personal information have been lost. I think from a government perspective, the breaches are a big threat and a challenge that the government has to solve. And while we say that, but still things need to be exposed and content needs to be shared. That's where I think we can help in a huge way so that you deal with the breaches not after they happen, but before they happen, and keep your data and metadata safe and secure and still allow for productivity to improve.
Mm-hmm. I'd like to know more about your thoughts on the private and hybrid cloud.
From our perspective at Accellion and Kiteworks, the private cloud we think is still the most secure way to store content. And like I said, it keeps your data and metadata 100% within your private cloud. However, having said that, the hybrid clouds are becoming very popular because the IT departments are tending more to keeping as much, they want to keep only the minimal amount of information in their data centers while the rest are stored in the cloud. So the hybrid clouds have gained a lot of popularity where they want select content to be kept in the on-premises while the rest are being kept in the cloud. And Kiteworks and Accellion is the only product that offers the widest range of deployment options in terms of 100% private cloud or a public cloud or a hybrid cloud. And that's still keeping the content very, very secure.
Mm. What about your thoughts on ownership of encryption keys, and why is this important?
When Safe Harbor was thrown out of the window in, I think it was October or November of last year, I could not believe it. I did not believe that this ruling from the European Court would really happen. And what that made everyone realize is that global enterprises can no longer rely on Safe Harbor to keep their data secure and to solve their data sovereignty needs. So Europe has this rule wherein EU data has to stay within the EU premises, and so does Canada and some other countries. And because we offer 100% private cloud and let our customers own their encryption keys and rotate them when they need to, we really take care of the data sovereignty rules and regulations of the EU and still boost productivity as well as security.
Mm-hmm. Well, let's talk a little bit more about mobile device security and what should be the strategy.
Okay. Those of us have been seeing that mobile industry know that bring your own device as well as choose your own device are here to stay. It's no longer, it's a moot point to be able to arguing about those. So in this age of bring your own device, every employee chooses either brings their own device or chooses their own device, which means they are using their personal device to not just store their kids' pictures and vacation pictures, but also they're accessing very sensitive enterprise information from the same device. So when, let's say, I'm an employee of an enterprise and I decide to leave the enterprise, if the enterprise were to wipe my entire device and I lose all my vacation pictures and my kids' pictures, I would be really upset. So because they are priceless. And what we've been able to do at Accellion and as part of our product Kiteworks is to have a container around the enterprise content so that you're able to wipe just the content and not the entire device. So we've taken a device agnostic approach to mobile security, and that includes a secure container, building our own productivity tools or an editor, and remote wipe of the content without having to wipe the entire device. So that's so this whole approach of being device agnostic and being able to secure the content is our unique position on mobile security.
So, Vidhya, how important would you say compliance is?
Yeah, that's an interesting question, considering that we've been talking about security a lot, and many of us in the industry tend to think of security and compliance as very closely related or and we use it interchangeably. If you take any regulated industry, be it the government or financial services or healthcare or legal, compliance is extremely important, where they have a lot of regulations, and meeting those regulations is a very important part of it. Accellion and Kiteworks is a FIPS 140-2 certified product, and that makes it an excellent fit for any of the government needs. And we're also in the process of obtaining our FedRAMP certification, which allows us to host our product in the government cloud as well. And we're also in the process of acquiring some certifications from other countries in Europe as well. So our goal here is to make as compliance as easy or as effortless as it can be for the government as well as any of these regulated industries, so they can still achieve all of their productivity needs and be secure and achieve all of their compliance and regulatory requirements.
Thanks, Vidhya. So Accellion has some really valuable resources. Can you tell us more about some of the white papers and videos we should reference?
Well, we have a lot of resources, you're right. So one of the things that immediately comes to mind is quite recently we had one of our customers, the City of Pleasanton, do a webinar on how the City of Pleasanton solved its file sharing challenges, and some of the key takeaways from that were that they were able to collaborate on highly confidential files and also access files that were stored in SharePoint. So with Kiteworks and Accellion, you're able to store your content, access your content regardless of where it's stored. And from a regulatory standpoint, it complies with all of the requirements from a city government standpoint. So it was a very successful and an interesting webinar that would be useful for the government and the state and local as well. So that's a great resource available on our website. That's from the City of Pleasanton again. And we also have some other webinars about our governance package. We've been talking about security and compliance a lot, and we all know that many government agencies and enterprises in the regulatory industries get a lot of e-discovery requests very frequently, and data loss prevention is a key problem that they would like to solve. Our Kiteworks governance package and the data sheet on that is available on our website, which is an invaluable resource to educate people on our e-discovery, on how they can solve their e-discovery and data loss prevention challenges. We also have another webinar on the safe harbor being struck down and how global organizations as well as the European Union organizations can solve their collaboration needs, but still complying with the EU safe harbor. And we talked about mobile security earlier, and government agencies have adopted BYOD quite a bit, but they would want to achieve secure BYOD in the government agencies, and we do have a webinar on that as well. So the City of Pleasanton webinar, the governance package, secure BYOD in government agencies, and the webinar on safe harbor are great resources to look up. And
excellent. Thank you so much for sharing. And thank you so much for joining us. It was really valuable learning more about your background and Accellion solutions. So thanks for joining us.
Thanks for having me.
To learn more about Accellion, go to accelllion.com.
Thank you again for tuning in. Please join us for our next council meeting and upcoming podcasts. Go to gtra.org. Again, I'm your host, Kelly Yoakum, and I look forward to your topic ideas, feedback, and suggested podcast participants. So please feel free to reach out to me at kelly@gtra.org.